Okay, yeah. So yeah, that's all I have on Hegel. I want to talk a little bit about the deep meme because that's a very central concept for you, and it is your concept. It is something you introduced in what's that paper called? Transcendental Memology. Old paper,
Yes.
very influential on me. And actually, in my own work, I've taken the deep meme and used it in a different way. But I was very clear about how it's not a critique of you or your work, because it's sort of basically using the term, because I think it's essentially we're saying the same thing in terms of a structure of a geometrical structure and the limitations on a worldview. It's just for you, you would say, from my understanding, and I'm basing this more on your older work than your newer work. What you say about the deep meme is that it's almost this geometrical expression, like the logic expressing the what's it called, the crucial resource. So in this sense, the deep meme doesn't have any particular content in itself. That's the way I understand it. So I wanted to ask you about this because I actually was reading Husserl a while back, his extremely extremely difficult text on time consciousness, and he mentions how when we're talking about something like what causes human beings to have temporal consciousness, an example would be your own body, right? Your own mind. This he calls the empirical genesis of time consciousness, while he is looking to investigate its descriptive content or its phenomenological content. So I think what I was doing in Aphasis with the deep meme is more so along the lines of a descriptive content and wanting to say what exactly is the deep meme for the subject. And obviously, as you know, that what I came to is the deep meme is the shape of time consciousness. So what do you think? What do you think about this? Like, has your since transcendental memology, how has your thought changed in any way that would be relevant to what I'm saying here? And what do you think about this idea of you more so dealing with the empirical genesis, as Husserl would say, of the deep meme, while I tried to focus more on its descriptive phenomenological content?
That is a great question. And I'm sorry to say this, I need to plug in this laptop or it
No
will shut
worries.
off. I should
No
have grabbed
worries.
the laptop charger. I'm sorry, I'll grab that real quick and
No, it's
I'll be right back. All right, thank
all
you.
right.
Okay. So this is a great question about whether there's a very subtle distinction in the interpretation of the deep meme if we are thinking of it as a shape of time itself, as you say within your book, Aphasis, whether we have the empirical genesis part or maybe the properly transcendental. This reminds me almost of the distinction between the subjective time and objective time and Nick Land's work on cryptocurrency. There's a very interesting lecture series on that book from Meta Nomad, the host of Hermetics, in which the claim is made, if I remember this correctly, that in Bitcoin, you actually do have something like value in and of itself in a way that you don't with, say, a dollar. A dollar is not value in itself. It's a representation of value, which ultimately depends upon some third party, which is the bank. When you cut out the third party of the bank, you get value in and of itself in Bitcoin. And you also have a movement within the generation of that value, I guess, Bitcoin mining, which is the objective movement of time. And if I remember correctly, that's where MetaNomad places the transcendental, right? The transcendental time is really there, the sort of time which you and I experience as finite subjects within our own consciousness. That's maybe the empirical time of just my own time, the subjective time. The real time, which is moving forward, okay, is there in Bitcoin mining. So where does all of that fit in with the deep meme, right? Because we can think of this as something which is also having an origin outside of us, ourselves, and maybe even thinking of it as something like a value in and of itself, because the idea of thinking of it being as limitation means that I don't spontaneously generate the world of values through the free agency of my own mind. Rather, there's a certain dependency of my mind on a value which impinges on it from the outside, but which is not simply the purely negative value which can't be known. In that case, it's not really a value of the thing in itself. This is kind of like Graham Harman's object-oriented ontology. He says, well, object-oriented ontology is simply salvaging the part about Kant's philosophy which everybody else gets rid of, which is the unknowability of the thing in itself. And then we extend that not only to the subject, which can't know it, but the things themselves can't know each other because they withdraw from one another, right? Mm-hmm. So we have this this withholding within object-oriented ontology from trying to conclude what the value of these objects are because we respect that withdrawal. And my own philosophy seems to be the opposite, which is no, not for every object, obviously, but for the crucial resource, there is a value in and of itself, which impinges upon my consciousness and causes me, in a certain sense, to interpret everything else in a certain way. And it occurs on a level which is virtually never explicitly recognized, for if it is recognized, paradoxically, it no longer functions. There's sort of a Haagelian idea here, I think, in the sense that if something, Zizek has repeatedly noted, if something unconscious becomes conscious, then it no longer functions. In his sublime objective ideology, all the way back in 1989, he noted that if you reveal something which should not be revealed, the subject is not liberated. Instead, the very fabric of reality comes apart, right? He talks about destroying the symptom, I think, is the thing he focuses on in that very early text of his. So we have this idea that the deep mean paradoxically only works if I don't see it. I can only assume that, well, of course, everything is progress, and if it's not progress, it doesn't exist. I can only assume that if I don't know that progress is simply the soma of fossil fuels, when I reveal that, no longer is progress possible. And really, this does risk a certain type of madness, because if you see through every deep meme, then you'll go insane. And this is something which, Greer has also mentioned, that some of the people who actually relocated to vastly different cultures from their own and really understood those cultures actually went insane. Okay, so there is a certain danger here, because you need the deep meme to function in order to see. But of course, the danger of technology, sorry to bring this up again, is precisely that the modern technology is also destroying the memological structure of reality, but not positively liberating us as rational beings to see that it was memological. Rather, it's just getting rid of subjectivity on the way to robots. So this is, it's something which I would actually agree with you in a lot of ways, that the deep meme, or let's just call it the soma, the actual crucial resource, is kind of like Bitcoin, but even more so, because for me, honestly, Bitcoin is just another technology. And that's really, for me, not where you can locate value in and of itself. For me, the dialogue between accelerationism and deep ecology is that Nick Land says, well, Bitcoin gives you value in and of itself. The deep ecologist R. Ness says value in and of itself, beyond any human frame of reference, is diversity and richness. Even without humans, the world of nature values complexity and richness, and technology negates these, because you have complication in a place like, say, New York City, but you have remarkably little complexity, because the natural life forms that dwell there are mostly rats. There's actually more rats than humans in New York now. I don't know if you've been to New York. They're really, if you see rats in like a subway system, they're really big and scary. And really, that's the perverse truth of New York itself. We created